Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still rejecting from this massive level of resistance on the daily Bitcoin price chart. But obviously, over the last one day, we just saw a liquidity grab, wiping out some over-leveraged short positions, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But while this was happening, we're still perfectly rejecting from my exact resistance in the short term. So over the last one day, with that short-term bounce and then rejection, that actually secured even more profits for this trading strategy that I've been sharing recently here on the channel. So in just a moment, I'll be sharing exactly how I'm planning to continue to profit very easily from the next Bitcoin moves happening very soon. And while this is happening, Ethereum is still perfectly rejecting from my exact resistance, while the price of Solana is right on the edge of invalidating this bullish divergence. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which is technically still valid and still playing out. And so obviously this means that we're most likely going to be lacking bullish momentum, showing a lot of weakness, and quite possibly seeing a bit more of a pullback within the next few weeks or months as a very likely scenario, despite what happens on smaller time frames. So keep that in mind. That is still my expectation when we're talking about the slightly mid to longer term. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, right now history is still potentially repeating, as we've not yet really confirmed an invalidation to really deviate away from this fractal that we're still repeating from what we saw back here. And as I've said many times recently here on the channel, the invalidation signal that I'll be watching for in order to potentially start flipping a little bit more bullish again in the short term would be a confirmed breakout with at least a daily candle close above this line on the price chart, which is a very significant line to pay attention to, and that's sitting at around 110,500 approximately. And over the last one day, we actually broke out above the area temporarily, but did not confirm the breakout. We only just saw a candle wick towards the upside, but no candle closes. And so this is basically what I talked about in my last video, saying how there's price traps happening, trapping some people to potentially open long positions, for example, before seeing confirmation. That's basically why I like to say we need to wait for confirmation before entering any sort of breakout trade, because if we don't have the confirmation, then we could just potentially reject and come back below the line without even confirming the candle close. So obviously if you open a long position at, let's just say 113k, and then we quickly come back down like this, you're basically trapped in that position in a loss, at least as of right now. And so once again, that's why we need to wait for confirmation in order to actually confirm a breakout here. And then only if we do that, then that would start to invalidate and really deviate away from this fractal right here, potentially pointing towards a little bit more bullish price action. Once again, only if we confirm an actual candle close above this line right here. And so that's just simply me telling you the point where I would start to flip in the short term from bearish to bullish. But right now, because we've not confirmed that signal, I'm still currently more bearish than I am bullish. I'm leaning more bearish for the price of Bitcoin when we're talking about, say, the next 1 or 2 weeks as a very likely scenario, potentially still repeating what we saw back here around end of February, entering into early March. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, we can see that over the last one day, we saw another perfect rejection in the 6-hour candle closes from my exact area of resistance that I've been warning about, sitting in between around 111.7k to 112k. And even if we saw a confirmed breakout above that level, we could also find a small amount of resistance at 113,500, but really the next significant level of resistance in the short term for the price of Bitcoin, if we first confirm a breakout above this level, would be sitting at around 116,000, likely acting as strong resistance. And technically speaking, this shorter term bullish divergence has not yet confirmed an invalidation signal to actually invalidate the bullish divergence, which means technically speaking, it is still active. It's still influencing the price of Bitcoin, which means continue to expect either some choppy sideways price action or slight bullish relief. But remember, we have a lot of important resistance just above the price. For example, this level at close to 112k, and of course this ascending line of previous support now acting as new resistance at roughly 110,500. And so what that essentially means is, yes, we could likely continue maybe a slight little relief, but then the moment we start approaching these levels, expect the price to start struggling or possibly rejecting from those levels on the price chart. And so we can see exactly that happening over the last few days here. The price trying to play out a bit of a bullish relief, running into resistance, rejecting, trying to play out the bullish relief again, rejecting from resistance, so on and so forth, causing a bit of choppy sideways price action, which is also one of the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. And so basically the same sort of price action that we've seen over the last half a week or so is what I continue to expect in the immediate short term for the price of Bitcoin. But if we're talking about over the next 1 or 2 weeks, especially over the next 1 month or so, I'm still leaning more bearish than bullish, especially based on this weekly Bitcoin price chart with a bearish divergence on the much larger timeframes. But while the price of Bitcoin is just bouncing around, showing short-term volatility as of right now in the small timeframes, this is actually great news for my Bitcoin trading strategy that I've been sharing here on this channel completely for free, very transparently. And so right now, over the last 1 day, with that spike towards the upside and then rejection, that actually secured even more profits. While a bunch of other people out there got absolutely destroyed on that move, my trading strategy, which I have been sharing here on the channel for almost a week now, over the last half a week, has been securing more profits. As you can see right here, the grid profit is basically the realized profit. And so the moment we see any sort of little bounce like this, you can see on my Pinex account a bunch of sell orders and buy orders below and above the price. And so if, for example, if in the coming days or if in the next few weeks we continue a bit more of a pullback, they'll just simply buy some more Bitcoin at lower prices. But then the moment we see any little spike towards the upside or a recovery or bounce towards the upside, anything like that, even if it's a very short-term move like what we saw over the last 1 day, that basically hits a bunch of these sell orders to already secure profits out of the trade. And so even though over the last 1 week or so the price has barely moved anywhere, as we can see right here, due to the fact that we haven't gone perfectly sideways, we've seen choppy sideways price action, obviously some volatility in between while the price has not really moved all that much. Of course, if you're simply just holding spot Bitcoin, the price has done nothing for you. If you've been in a very high leverage long position or short position, you've probably got completely destroyed right here. But if you're following my trading strategy, you're making very easy and very passive profits this entire time. And so that's still my current trading strategy, not changed over the last 1 day, still in the grid bot, as you can see right here. And if you actually want to copy my trading strategy completely for free with a single click of a button, you can click the second link below the video. It'll take you to this page right here where you can simply copy my trading strategy, copy the bot. And you can see that this trading strategy has already been running over the last 5 days or so, already well profitable, as you can see right here. And so once again, you can simply click that button, copy the trading strategy if you want to. As always, no guarantees, no financial advice, but I'm just simply showing what I'm currently doing with my own money. But if you want to actually copy this trading strategy, unfortunately, this copy button will not work unless you have a Pinex account using the link below the video to actually make your Pinex account. So obviously I'm taking this trading strategy over on my Pinex account. And once again, you need to actually make a Pinex account using one of the links below the video. If you don't use one of those links, unfortunately, you simply just cannot copy this trading strategy. And so if you actually use the first link below the video to Pinex, it'll take you to this sign up page where you can also get a bunch of bonuses, essentially free money from the exchange, just by making an account and completing deposits and things like that using the link below the video. So for example, if you use the link, make an account, complete KYC, you get a 50 USDT bonus onto your account. And there's also deposit bonuses. If you deposit just 100 USDT, you get a 100 USDT bonus on your account. Or if you deposit 10,000, you get a 1,000 USDT bonus onto your Pinex account. Once again, basically free money from the exchange just by simply depositing, making an account using that link below the video. But once again, if you don't use that link, unfortunately, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. And also this copy button will not work unless you use the links below the video to actually make your Pinex account. And so that is my current trading strategy. Once again, not a lot has changed over the last 1 day. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that over the last 1 day, obviously we wiped out that area of liquidity that I've been talking about for a while now on the channel over the last few days. That was sitting at roughly 112K and slightly above 112K. And so usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where we have a lot of liquidity. You can think of these areas of liquidity as kind of like magnets for the price of Bitcoin, pulling Bitcoin towards wherever we have a lot of liquidity, especially if it's relatively close to the price. So that's exactly what we saw over the last 1 day, a simple liquidity grab towards the upside to wipe out a bunch of over leveraged short positions, but then obviously a quick rejection as we run into these critical levels of resistance here. And we also still have some liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin. First of all, some sitting at around 114,000 and also at just above 116,000. But once again, remember that between the current price and those higher levels of liquidity, liquidity, we still have a lot of resistance that we need to pay attention to where the price would likely reject from or struggle at. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, we can see that right now a lot of the funding rates are slightly below neutral. So they're not extremely negative as of right now, but they are below neutral. The neutral rate is 0.01%. So for some cryptos, for some exchanges, they're basically on the neutral rate, as you can see right here. But a lot of cryptos on a lot of exchanges are now starting to flip negative. And so this is something to pay attention to, because the further the funding rates go negative, the higher probability that we could potentially see a short squeeze. In other words, a move like what we saw over the last one day, a spike towards the upside to wipe out some short positions. But once again, they're not overly negative just yet, but they are moving in that direction. So something to pay attention to, which I will be sharing in the coming days. But with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, right now the Bitcoin dominance is still playing out my exact prediction that I've been saying every day for a month now, which is a slight bullish relief. This is exactly what I've been saying. It's what I continue to say right now. Expect a continued bullish relief, just a slight bullish relief like this in the Bitcoin dominance is a very likely scenario, still playing out this bullish divergence. And so that basically tells us that a lot of the altcoins in general, a lot of the altcoins on average will be slightly underperforming Bitcoin. So not necessarily doing much worse, but maybe just slightly underperforming Bitcoin. And of course, there'll be outliers. So it's not going to be every single altcoin, but most major altcoins, just expect them to either perform similar or a bit worse than whatever Bitcoin is doing. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is getting very close to obviously breaking below this area of support. In fact, over the last one day, technically speaking, we did see a 3-day candle close just a few dollars below 3.9k, but still not really a lot of confirmation, because this area of support, in case you're wondering, is sitting in between 3.9k to 4.1k. And right now the price is still very close to 3.9k. We've not really properly confirmed a break to the downside here, but if we start confirming more 3-day candle closes, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, flipping into new resistance, seeing some sort of rejection like this, then in that situation, then of course that'll be a larger bearish price structure, pointing towards a move at least down towards 3,500, possibly much lower. And so this is definitely a crucial level to pay attention to in the coming days and weeks for Ethereum. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart right now, I continue to expect relatively sideways price action, bouncing around sideways, which is what I've been saying basically every day since after this flash crash right here. Every day since then, I've been saying expect choppy sideways price action. And the moment we saw that decent bounce right here, a lot of people were telling me I'm going to be wrong about that, telling me that we're already on the recovery now towards the highs. But obviously we continued another rejection and then bounce and continue to play out choppy sideways price action, which is what I said after that flash crash. And so continue to expect this moving forward as a very likely scenario, at least for a little longer. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour Ethereum price chart, we're currently in this sideways price range between support and resistance. First of all, this important area of support is sitting in between around 37.20 to 37.60, and this area of resistance, which we've now seen 2 perfect rejections from, in fact multiple perfect rejections from my exact area of resistance, sitting in between around 40.60 to 4.1k. And so basically continue to expect the price to bounce as support and reject from resistance, causing choppy sideways price action in this sideways price range is what I continue to predict here in the short term, and obviously still playing out very nicely right now. And if we were to see an eventual breakout above this area of resistance, we also have a significant area of resistance here sitting in between around 42.50 to 42.80. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is still playing out that short-term rejection from this area, currently acting as resistance, sitting in between around 190 to 200. So continue to expect resistance in that area. And as for support, if we see a bit more of a rejection here, expect a lot of support in between around 170 to 175. But over the last one day, not a lot has changed on this chart. So getting straight into the shorter term, looking at the 8-hour Solana price chart. And right now, we're still technically just holding on to this level of support in the 8-hour Solana RSI. So we've not yet technically invalidated this bullish divergence, but we're getting extremely close to invalidating the bullish divergence, telling us that it's basically already played its part and to no longer necessarily rely on the bullish divergence any longer. But as I always say, Solana, along with a lot of the major altcoins out there, will likely perform similar price action. Of course, with Bitcoin dominance being in a bullish relief, maybe a little bit worse than whatever Bitcoin is doing, but but very similar price action to what Bitcoin is doing, which means if Bitcoin is bouncing around like this in the short term, expect something very similar for Solana and a lot of altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, right now XRP is still perfectly playing out this massive bearish divergence that I warned about months ago, since almost the exact all-time high onwards, warning about this larger pullback coming over the next few months. So obviously still playing out as predicted. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, technically speaking, we still have a shorter term bullish divergence, basically resulting in a slight little relief, a bit of a break from all of this bearish price action, but still technically within a bearish trend on the daily time frame, because this is not a trend reversal signal. It just tells us expect a bit of a break or a relief, but still potentially within the trend. And so that is still the situation right now for XRP, playing out a slight relief during a bearish trend, forming lower highs and lower lows. And when it comes to support and resistance to watch out for, we have this area of support in between around $2.30 to $2.40, which we're currently testing as of recording the video. If we see a further breakdown here, expect the next significant support to come into play at roughly $2.05. And as for resistance, if we see another bounce here in the short term, expect a lot of resistance at roughly around $2.60. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a very similar situation for Chainlink as what I just said for XRP. So right now, still technically within a bearish trend, forming bearish price structure like lower highs and lower lows, for example. But of course, we technically still have a shorter term bullish divergence on the daily time frame, which at least for now is technically active. We've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal to actually invalidate the bullish divergence. And so this basically means we could perhaps play out a bit more of a sideways consolidation, just a bit of a break from the bearish trend, but not necessarily the end of the trend. So for example, it is possible to see just some sideways price action or a slight bullish move during the larger bearish trend, which we are still currently in. And so that is still the situation for Chainlink, just like XRP. And if we're taking a look at support and resistance levels for Chainlink to watch out for, right now we're testing this level, which could act as a bit of support at roughly around 1730 to 1750. And if we see a breakdown here in that situation, expect a lot of support in between 1520 to 1570. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance as we approach closer towards $19.50, but really in between around $19.50 to $20 as strong resistance. And remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, check out the links below the video to those exchanges if you want to claim the massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take trades just like this one for yourself to make a lot of easy profits in the market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.